Welcome to another fantastic episode of This Week in Reselling, where we interview special guests each and every week from different walks of life in the reselling world. Here we'll discuss the highs and lows of reselling and dive into great conversation, and we are positive that you're going to learn something that is going to help you become a better reseller. I am your host, Ray, and guys, today we have a very special episode. Now, this is a little different than what we do. Of course, we usually do it live, but this is a pre-recorded episode coming straight from FlipCon, which is the reseller conference in Charlotte, hosted by Josh, aka Harry Tornado. I got the pleasure of having a sit-down interview with my boy, Kevin Brown. You may know him as Commonwealth Flipper, Commonwealth Picker, and this is different. He's never done anything like this, guys. He's never really talked about himself, how he started, his thoughts of where he is now as a content creator, as a reseller. So it was a really great sit-down interview. We did it in the hotel room while we're at FlipCon in Charlotte, and it is absolutely awesome. You guys are gonna love it. But before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, and that's none other than My Reseller Genie. Now, if you're a reseller and you're keeping your receipts in a box, a shoe box, it's old and gangly and it's got dust all over it, and at the end of the year you're stressed out because your numbers aren't put together, you need to get My Reseller Genie. My Reseller Genie is the analytics and accounting solution for all resellers. Add unlimited platforms to track all your inventory and sales in one location. Manage business expenses in real time, analyze sales trends, and so much more. All your numbers in one place. Be ready for tax time. Grow with your business. Get My Reseller Genie. And if you act right now, you can use the code thenashvilleflippers and you're going to get 15% off your first month. And like always, guys, if you like content like this, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get to the interview, baby. We good?
Yeah, it was good.
All right. So we're here, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another fantastic episode of This Week in Reselling. I'm your host, Ray, and I'm here in person. We're here at FlipCon. I'm here with Mr. Kevin Brown. How are you, Kevin?
I don't do lives, but he said I'm.
No, this is pre-recorded. This is pre-recorded.
Asked me to do a live.
We're not live, so this is pre-recorded. So, Kevin, how are you doing today,
I'm
sir?
doing all right.
Yeah?
I'm a little nervous, I got to tell you. First of all, I've never done a show where I have to hold a mic.
You don't have to hold it.
Dave usually, I can just give.
I mean, you can clip it on if you want.
Death Pile Pig.
Yeah. So this is the first time I'm doing this mic thing, so I'm just trying it out.
Are they fake or are they real?
They're real. There's a microphone in there. See?
Very good.
So, Kevin, the great and mighty Kevin Brown.
Oh my gosh. Am I supposed to look at you or look at the camera?
You can look at me. We're just having a conversation. It's me and you.
You're good.
So
I like your shirt.
Thank you so much. I like your shirt as well, if he's fishing for compliments. So, Kevin, a lot of people, Commonwealth Picker, Commonwealth Flipper, Garage Sale Nation, Trash to Cash podcast. So let's go back.
Let's go back.
We're going back.
Childhood?
We're going back. So let's start off with little Kevin Brown.
Little Kevin.
Little Kevin Brown, small.
Why does that feel like this is the podcast all over again?
This is it. So little Kevin Brown. So, Kevin, for the people that may not know you, so this is what we're going to do here, Kevin. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk a little bit about reselling. Okay. We're going to get to that point.
Good.
But I want to know more about the man behind the reselling, the content creation empire that you've created.
Okay.
100,000 subscribers on one of your
Picker channel.
How do you feel? Tell me about that. How does that feel?
Well, I'll tell you what. We got to go back to little Kevin, but we're skipping.
Let's start off with that because you're what, one of 5 resellers with 100?
More than that.
I don't know, man.
It's got to be more than that. Anyway, I'll tell you what. To be perfectly honest with you, it doesn't even make sense to me. If you just go back 5 years, I'm just some guy teaching in the high school and coaching baseball, and watching people do these shows, and I'm like, man, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm like, I could probably do this. I can talk. I can yap like anybody else. And I told my wife, and she's like, "What are you talking about?" But I will say this: my wife. Have you met my wife?
I've never met your wife.
Oh my gosh, that's right. We were in Nashville, and you did.
Over under. Everyone put in the comments. How many times will Kevin do this? Put down over under. What do you think? How many times is Kevin going to do that? Over under. 10? Over 5? Okay, 5.
I knew this was a trap.
Okay, it's not a trap, Kevin. I'm not here to trap you. I'm not here to trap you.
It's a trap. I should have brought that shirt.
I'm not Brittany Rayner.
So I'll tell you what. I was doing this, and I told my wife, I'm like, I'm just gonna give it a shot. And I filmed my first video, and I filmed it up and down, like an idiot.
9x16
And
vertical.
I was at that point. If you want to go back and watch my first video on the picker, it's a flipper. I don't even know what kind of video it was, but it was on the picker channel. And I had found like a downhill ski jacket, and I was so proud of it. You know how people want to post. We have Trash Cash Facebook group, and when you find something, you want everybody to share in it, right? So I'm like, I had this awesome find. It was a polo. You know what I'm talking about? A polo. You don't. Vegas. They don't use ski jackets in Vegas.
Like Polo Ralph Lauren ski jacket?
Yeah.
Was it like a
They call it a suicide jacket.
Okay.
And I found it at a sale at a local high school, and it was like 1 in the afternoon, and it was sitting there for $20. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me! And this is like $500,000 jacket. I told my wife, this is my video. I'm gonna make this video, and she's like, okay, whatever, fine. And I make the video and I put it out. I weighed like 130 pounds. I was.
How much do you weigh now? A little bit of
more. I don't know, 160. And I put it out there, and she just laughed at me and laughed at the video. I'm like, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, whatever. And of course, nobody watched it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do one tomorrow. And I have you know me well enough. I have 0 technical skills. He just saw my computer that I work off.
Bro, if you go to like the smallest little rinky-dink country town and go to any of their pawn shops, you will find Kevin's computer in that pawn shop for $25.
Every video I've ever posted was on that computer.
And you edit, like we were talking earlier, you edit your videos on your cell phone.
On my phone, every single one.
So for the people that are watching this right now that are thinking about content creation, we're talking to Kevin Brown. Listen, he's uploading on like a 30-year-old computer. He's editing on his cell phone. So if you're thinking about doing it, just do it. 5 years ago.
Well, it was a little over 4 years ago, and I just started uploading, and I'm like, whatever. And I told my wife, I'm like, hey, we had a beach trip coming up in like 10 days. And I'm like, I think I'm going to upload every single day for like a year. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I think I'm going to do it for a whole year. And
for a whole year.
See what happens. I'm like, if I can't get to 1,000 subscribers, I promise you I'll stop. She's like, we're going to the beach. I'm like, I know. I got to film 2 videos a day for a week so I can get to this beach. And I didn't know how to edit. I had no idea how to do anything. Like, I literally filmed videos. Some of my first videos, I would film them, and if I made a mistake, I'd turn it off and delete it and start over again. And so I would film like 10, 15-minute videos.
You would delete it and then start the whole video over
If
again?
I made a mistake, because I don't know how to edit. I just wanted to film it straight.
Like straight?
Straight.
Wow. So one 15-minute video could take you like 2 hours if you just kept messing up.
Depends. I can talk. So sometimes it would, there's a couple first takers where I just kept it all.
Well, that helps because your background, being a school teacher.
Yeah, you can kind of
regurgitating that information. Being a coach, baseball coach.
For sure. So and I did it, and I'm like, I can't do this forever because that was a little ridiculous. You can't just not edit videos. Plus, there's a lot of pauses and whatever, and you want to get rid of that stuff. And I'm like, babe, can you maybe, because she's always worked at home since we had Reagan, since we had our second one. And I'm like, could you do this for me? Because I was working. I was coaching baseball. I was teaching 40 hours a week. I was busy. And I was reselling. And she was helping me resell. Like, could you edit this? And so she downloaded an app. And it's like, okay, I'll edit it. But she thinks it's a joke, which it kind of was a joke. And so she would take all the stuff in the videos that I would say, like, at any rate, I say that all the time on my videos, and she would, like, cut them all out and put them at the beginning of the video and, like, make fun of me. And she would every time I drop something or whatever, she'd, like, have glass break and whatever, and all the dumb things. Like, I think I said in my first one, I said, like, Holy Grail in the video for the downhill jacket.
For the downhill jacket.
And so, like, all these videos, it's just her ripping me in the edits. But what am I going to do? Because I can't edit it. I don't have the time.
You can't edit it out.
And after we just kept going, and it just slowly built, and you get addicted to the rise, to this kind of going up.
So let me ask you before you get into that, you see the rise coming. Like, what really, from you doing it every day, what hit to where?
Two things.
Okay.
There are two things. One is I hit 100 subscribers, and I'm like, everybody does a giveaway, right? I'm like going to do a 100 subscriber giveaway, and so I decided to do a 100 subscriber giveaway, and I can't even remember. I think it was like, I don't know, anything $10 in my store, $15 in my store, something like that, and we took everybody's comments. You know how you do the comments now, where you do the computer generated
the comment
thing
picker or whatever.
Well, I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So I
put them out of like a hat.
had Turner write them on a piece of paper, or Reagan write them, fold them up, put them in a hat, and we pulled out a name, which if I knew now what I knew about YouTube then, I would have purposely pulled this name out. Right?
So it just happened to be
It happened to be by chance. It was a channel called Thrifting 101.
Okay.
They don't make videos anymore. Shout out Michelle if you're still out there. And we pulled her name out, and I'm like, Thrifting 101. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I think I've watched this lady's channel before. She did glass in Florida. And sure enough, I looked it up. She had 10,000 subscribers. I'm like,
and for
cool.
what we do,
yeah.
That's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Especially 5 years ago.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so I sent her a message, and she's so happy she won. And I think I'm like $15 out of the store. And at this point, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, she don't even care. And so I threw in an Enaman.
Mm-hmm. So you had the Enaman at the time?
I had just got it. And it was kind of like before it really hit big, obviously, because I had 100 subscribers. And I gave her what she asked for, but then I threw in some extra things that she would like, some vintage Christmas ornaments and stuff. And she got it, and she opened it on her show. And I'm like, holy freaking moly, she opened this on at the beginning of her show. Sometimes people bury stuff at the end, like when I have you on, I put you, at the end of the show, right?
The true Nashville Flippers fans.
But at any rate, she opens it up, and we just happened to have, it wasn't a picking video. I didn't do picking videos at the time, but I happened to have a video of a haul that I had just got, and it's like picker-ish, right? It was in my truck, and I was unloading it.
So you were doing more like flipper videos.
They were all flipper
you
videos.
Buying something, you're showing it off, and then you're seeing what it sells.
I was like showing what sold, and then I'd pack it, and then I'd show what sold, and then I'd pack it. I mean, it was bad. It was really bad.
How many of those videos did you do until you finally did like a picker video?
It took a while, because I was broke, because I was a teacher. I had no money. There was no money. I'm like, my wife's like, you're going to buy a GoPro? Dude, we got to buy groceries.
And
I'm like, I got to do a picker video. I said, you seen John Cincinnati Picker? I was like,
he has a GoPro. I got to be like him.
Be like him. I think I used Lonnie's link to get a GoPro. I think I did back then. Anyway, so I did that, and I started making picker videos. But we had that kind of pseudo picker video, and I think I titled it A Happy Little Accident, because I found a Bob Ross. I don't even remember what it was. I don't know, it was an ornament or something.
That's a great title for
happy. And I put Bob Ross in the title. And when she did her little shout out, that was the video that had just been released, and it was the best video. It was the only decent video I had ever put out. So
you had certain things. You had like 3 or 4 things like just line up.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. And it was like I'm like, I just. The fact that you pulled her name out of that hat purely by accident, like I know now, I didn't realize back then that getting a shout out from somebody would help, right? It doesn't help near as much as it used to, but it used to help a lot. And so we just got a big bump, couple hundred people.
Wow.
Right when I started doing picking videos, and then some of those started to hit. And then I remember Matt, Part-Time Picker, had mentioned something on his show. He had a young daughter, and he was out, and I said something to him, and he had said something, and he shouted me out, and I was traveling. I was driving down to a Durham Bulls baseball game to meet my brother. I'm like, why is my channel blowing up? And that was it right there. And it just all... And I had talked to John a little bit, Cincinnati Picker. I knew he's a Reds fan. I had a buddy, Corky Miller, who played for the Reds. And I knew he liked the Durham Bulls and whatever, and so I'd send him a thing and whatever. And he was kind to me, and I was like, man, this is nuts. All this stuff just kind of falls into place, and I was super happy about it. And at that point, I was on a roll. And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna keep going, and we got to 1,000 subscribers. 3.5 months or something.
So from when you started, in 3.5 months, 1,000 subscribers.
And I still had never edited. I didn't know how to edit a video. No idea. My thumbnails were just the computer-generated thumbnail.
Just whatever the default thing was.
Had no idea. But people really, and then the other factor, of course, was the Enaman, where I had bought these before. And I had just bought a few for a couple bucks a piece at an antique shop, and I'm like, we'll put these. That'd be a fun thing. Of course, I made money on them before. I'd selling them because they're local. Fleet Enema Company is local to where I live, and I'd found these things, and I'm like, okay, we'll put it up there. And one sold to a viewer. I think it was like my second viewer sale ever, and we're not getting just hundreds of views. Is all we're getting. And somebody said on the video, they said, hey, I hope this thing gets my eBay store moving. And I'm like, I literally stopped the camera when I read that thing, and I drove down to that antique booth, and I bought every one they had. I knew as soon as that person said that on that comment, I'm like, this is it. We're going to go buy. And we bought them all. And sure enough, by the next day, after that video aired, we had like 4 more sales. And then 8 more sales, and then 15 more sales. And then the shout out part started happening because they knew if they bought an Enaman, I would read their message. I'd read their message. And there were days we were selling like 25, 20, 30 of those things a day.
How many did you buy when you went back to the antique store?
The second time I went back, I think I bought 3 boxes, which would have been, are they 100 a box? Like 300?
300 bucks? What did your wife say about that?
Oh my gosh.
300 is a lot.
Yeah, I think I had negotiated down to $1.50 at that point. So, and then I called him again because I'd sold like 50 in a couple of days, right?
Wow, yeah.
Like, how many you got? He's like, we have boxes. I'm like,
I want them all.
$1 a piece, and he went and got. I think we bought 2,500. And started selling them. At that point, I jacked the price up a little bit. But we started selling those, and because I didn't want it to overwhelm the show, right? If you're selling 20 a day, I mean, how many shout-outs?
So how would you combat that?
You raise the price.
Okay.
You raise the price.
So they weren't. What was the price? Like 15. You raised it to like 30.
I think we started at 12. Plus shipping, something like that, and then we went to 14, and then we went to 15, and then we went to 25, and they were still selling, but it was slowing down the higher the price went. But the channel was growing at the same time.
So right around there, how many subs did you have?
We were getting close to 1,000 at that point.
So you were like 1,000 watch hours on point, like you already.
Yeah, we actually had. I think when we hit 1,000 subs, we had. Really, really close. It was, I think, within days to hit the watch hours.
That's good.
And we were monetized. So, and that doesn't happen to a lot of people. A lot of people get to the subs before they get the watch hours. So, and that was with no pre-recordeds. That's the other thing that was a huge benefit. Do you remember this era? I think. Where everybody started doing lives.
Yeah.
Because it was an easy way to get your hours and whatever. And I have the worst internet in the world. I could not hold a live if I had to. I tried to with Chris Old School Picker, shout out Chris, and I jumped on one in the eBay cave one time, and it was awful. I think, do you remember Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Him? He was in there with Chris. And it was going in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out. I'm like, oh, well, this ain't never going to work. So I'm like, I'm never doing lives again.
So you were going to do, the reason you did a live is just get the rest of those watch hours.
No, the reason I didn't do it live, it was his live. I just wanted to see if it would hold it. I wanted to see if my internet could do it.
Gotcha.
And it was, because I wasn't going to go live on mine and have it be a mess.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, well, I'm not ever going to do it. And to me, that was the best thing that ever happened for me and my channel. Because lives can get addicting too, and you like the interaction. I love people. I just love talking to people and whatever. But I just couldn't do it where I was at. And that was another small factor in, I think, not that you can't grow your channel. I mean, Josh had lives and stuff.
But like, so you're saying that because people didn't necessarily, at this time, they had so much access to the people that they saw on YouTube with the live interaction, and you were kind of like a myth.
Yeah.
Kevin doesn't do lives.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's like, oh, when Kevin has a video, it's like,
And so I turned that into I'm not going to do lives with anybody, right? Until John Cincinnati Pickard calls up.
Well, that's
then what are you gonna
different.
tell
That's
him,
different.
no?
Yeah, that's different.
That was COVID, right? And then in COVID, where like nobody could go out and do whatever, so people were doing lives. I'm like, yeah, I'll do a live. That's the other thing that was like a roll of the dice here. I know it's your show. I should probably.
No, you're good. This is.
The fact that I had done so much video, I had so much backlogged video, because I'd go out, I love garage sales, and I would go out and I just videoed and videoed. And so when everything got shut down, I had months and months and months of footage. And not a lot of people did that back then. They didn't kind of stockpile stuff. Yeah. And so I'm posting video. I'm getting torn up for, oh, I can't believe you're out there doing this and whatever. I'm like, dude, this is 6 months ago, man. And so that was the other just perfectly laid path for me that really, really helped us. And, you know, there's other factors too. My kids were at the perfect age, just cute, and my wife was, you know,
So,
my wife was my wife.
By chance, so your content creation, YouTube, was all by chance.
Totally.
Almost.
Absolutely, totally. I mean, I'm not going to say it's totally by chance, because I was
you gotta
a
have,
video every
you have
day.
to have. I mean, you can't be a moron and be on camera and expect people to watch. You know what I mean?
But yeah, there was tons of people back then that did it with me, and when you probably started, there was probably less. I don't know. When did you start?
It's been a minute.
You on your show.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I mean, it was probably 2017.
So that's what I said.
Yeah.
You started earlier than me.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were so many people that started right when I did. I like to consider myself kind of the third wave. You know, they weren't the OGers, and then you had that second wave that came along, and Matt was there, and before that, John and Lonnie, and, you know, Pete was kind of old school and whatever. But I felt like I was in that wave of just a massive amount of people trying to do it. And you just see them fall off.
Consistency.
And just because you just can't keep going unless there's some kind of reward for it, but, you know, financial or whatever. And my financial reward was actually that Animan. And so I had that where other people didn't have it, right?
Yeah.
You're not, you know, getting monetized. Even if you get monetized, you're making pennies for, it's like, man, you're putting in hours of work and you're getting $1.50 or whatever. And that depresses people and it gets them whatever. But for me to put it in and then to make 7-8 sales of an Animan for $25 a pop.
And you got it for $1 a piece. Yeah. I mean, it's.
That was a lot of money for a one video, and I'm putting them out every day. That was a lot of money for, it was more than I was making teaching.
So like, where are we right now? You mentioned teaching. Where are we right now in this Commonwealth Flipper multiverse timeline here? You're still teaching? You're still coaching baseball?
I was still teaching, still coaching baseball.
You hit 1,000
I had
subscribers?
actually given up my coaching job. I was a full-time, I was the varsity head coach for 15 years at my high school. And my oldest son, which we call Bubba.
Shout out to Bubba.
He was getting into the middle school ranks playing baseball and high school ranks playing baseball. And I just decided with my wife, I can't do all this. Because if I'm going to coach a varsity baseball team and work
That's commitment.
tons of hours.
Yeah,
I mean, all year
varsity,
round,
anywhere.
fundraising, practices in the off season. I'm like, I'm never going to see him play. And so I loved baseball, and I loved coaching baseball, and I had built a successful program, and I'm like, I'm going to walk away from this, and it's going to be hard.
That's tough.
And I walked away from it, and immediately after I did, I knew I made the right decision because I was with him. I was coaching him. I coached him as a middle schooler. I coached him at a different high school, not the school I taught at. And I became the middle school coach, the JV head coach, and then I was the assistant coach on varsity as
On
he
all
grew
his
up.
teams.
On all his teams. And that's when COVID hit, and he missed out on his junior year, and I missed out on coaching that. And that's when it blew up, and I made the decision that I wasn't going to coach as an assistant coach on that team as his senior year.
Yeah.
Because of everything that was going on, and it was just too much. And that was a pretty good decision for us. But COVID hitting when it did was actually another just amazing blessing, because I was committed to coaching his baseball team as a junior in high school during yard sales. That's spring and summer. And they play Saturday games and whatever, and it hit, and I didn't have to feel that bad for not coaching him, and I was able to go out and do some of this stuff, and So it's just amazing.
And you're still teaching to this point?
Yeah, still teaching, and
2020, only 3 years ago, you're still teaching.
Yeah.
You're coaching your son in baseball.
Oh, no, I've only been not teaching for 2 years now. 2 years. So, and I probably would have quit a year sooner, but COVID hit, and so the classroom looked a little bit different, right? You didn't have to come to school, whatever. So it was awful.
Yeah,
I hated everything about teaching except for actually teaching the kids. Mm-hmm. And that's what I loved. And the
they
kids
took
weren't
that
there.
away from you.
The kids weren't there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm going to get a paycheck for teaching, these 3 kids in my room, and then teaching all these people online, which was a joke, by the way. There was hardly any teaching going on. I tried, but it was, impossible. And I was able to edit video in class and upload stuff and talk to kids and teach them and help them with stuff, but you didn't have to do the grind of teaching every day. And that was another thing that, in that little questionable period, like, should I quit my job? Should I not quit my job? I didn't have to make that decision.
That's where we were. That's where we are right now.
Yeah.
2020, Kevin Brown, I think I'm going to quit my job.
I knew I was going to quit my job.
Because this sucks. The best thing I like about teaching has been taken away from me.
Yep.
I'm going to quit my job.
Gonna do it for sure. And
what was the money looking like? Let's talk about reselling wise.
So I've said this before on my Flipper channel. The money, I really haven't changed that much as a reseller. I do make more as a reseller now than I did back then. But there were years where I was making more as a reseller than I did as a teacher. This is before YouTube.
Yeah.
Right? I was, I'm rural Virginia, man. I was making $40,000 a year after 20 years of teaching.
Yeah,
right? And I was I think one year, I made 45 net. And I made 42 as a teacher, like right when I started YouTube.
And that's when you're like, okay, I need to.
And when I saw that, the Enaman sales, that kind of like extra boost from your reselling, combined with the YouTube revenue, could replace the teaching income, and all the reselling income had to do was really stay the same. Mm-hmm. And so I went from being a teacher and a reseller to being a reseller and a YouTuber, and YouTube replaced the teaching income, and then it just grew from there.
That's all. So at this point, and I don't want to jump into your pockets here, okay, we have Art of Resale behind the camera asleep. Art, you okay, Bubba? So, and I don't want to dive into your pockets, but at this point, you saw that you're 2020. I don't want to dive into your pockets because it's not feasible. It's dumb. But at this point, YouTube-wise, 2020, you're making the same amount of money as you were teaching with your content creation.
2020, maybe
like when
not
you decide,
quite yet.
when did you decide to actually? What was the date that you quit your?
Well, I actually have it. If you watch my videos,
your crying video.
I did my crying video. Somebody actually sent me a stone. It's actually in the shape of Virginia, and they put the date on it. And I can't remember the date, but it's when I recorded that video. Mm-hmm. And that was the day that I had decided it was done, and I decided to pick up the camera that day because that video didn't air forever. Mm-hmm. But I decided to pick up the camera that day. I think it was in, oh man, I don't even remember. I have to look at that day.
2021. What year are we talking?
Was it 2021? What is it? 2023? I think it was 2020, late 2020. And I had decided then, but that video didn't air until after the reseller rally in when was the reseller? 2021. Yeah. So it was 2021. Okay. It was 2021. But I knew the video wasn't going to air till later, but I wanted to get my emotion of making the decision the day I made the decision, and I filmed it. And
what did you think your reaction was going to be?
I didn't even care, and I didn't know. I just wanted to put it on camera and see what happened. And I got incredibly emotional, like incredibly.
I mean, it
was relief.
You put so much into something. It doesn't. I mean, your job, especially teaching the youth of America. I mean, you put your soul into it, and then you stop.
I was in that same room for 21 years.
That's crazy.
I had never moved that room. I taught the same 2 subjects. I taught World History 1 and AP World History, and I taught it for 21 years in the same classroom. And I poured my absolute heart and soul into it. And what taught me a lot was when I quit coaching, because I had coached that baseball team for 15 years as a head coach, and I quit. and I poured my absolute heart and soul into it. And you know what? 6 months later, nobody cared. Nobody remembered. I mean, my old kids did, and they still text me to this day, my old ball players and stuff. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And I thought, man, I could pour myself into this job for 30 years and get a little, trinket for 30 years, and they get you on the way.
Give you a watch and a plaque.
Like, I could be at home if I make this thing work. If we can bump up the reselling and we can increase revenue here, I'm like, I can do this for a living. And I can, focus my content on people who pick the way I do, which isn't really full-time picking necessarily, but it's the way that most people pick because they're out there working 40 hours a week, and they don't have suppliers and they don't want to have it. They go to thrift stores and garage sales, and it's a hobby.
How everyone does it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not everybody.
No,
but,
well, see, I'm in the point like right now. I'm part-time, putting in full-time hours, and I'm to a point now to where my time is the most important part. So I'm looking for suppliers.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a big deal.
I can just, if I know I can spend this much money and get this much and make this much without me having to go out or whatever, it doesn't make for great content, but it's just using your time a little wiser.
Yep.
But for content purposes, it's awesome because that's what you want to see.
And I go one step farther than that. It's not, to me, I absolutely loved picking. I just love it. I love garage sales. So it was a stress reliever for me as a coach and as a teacher to go out to garage sales on a Saturday morning. And so I know I was never giving that up no matter what. I could have suppliers. And I'd still go do that for sure.
Yeah.
I have no doubt about it.
So, personally, he's asleep. Let the poor baby sleep.
His sleep's fine, but if
he's snoring, well, it's a good thing because,
okay, all right,
it won't pick it up. But, so family-wise, personal-wise, 2021, you decide to quit your job. What does that conversation look like with Blue Ridge Mama?
Well,
you got two little ones at home.
She knew the stress that I was under. I'm not going to get into the whole public school thing, but I mean, there were things that where I just personally, morally, just ethically, I just knew they were going down a path that was a disservice to kids. I don't want to get into it, and I had a hard time with it because I really thought the point of it was to best serve the kids, and we were going down roads that were just like ridiculous and lowering standard. I taught the upper echelon students, and I taught the very bottom, right? And that's how they did it, and that's a hard thing to do. And I had an interesting school district, and so because of that, we were what they were doing were disserving both communities, and I was like, this is just awful. And I'm not one to complain. I just did my own thing and did whatever.
Yeah.
And she just knew I struggled with it every single day because I don't want to toot my own horn, but I was a good teacher. I was a really good teacher, and one of the best in the area. It sounds like I'm bragging, but I'll just say it. The worst teachers and the best teachers get paid the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening a lot of times is the people who did the best, they're the ones who get heaped more and more responsibility on top of them because the other ones can't do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And at some point, there's a breaking point, and I was at the breaking point.
Either you're smart enough to be a good teacher, but then you're like, I'm going to play dumb, so I don't have to have enough.
It was awful. And so she knew that, and so she was like, well, it's not like you're making that much, we can do this. We can up this. In her mind, she's thinking we can up that reselling money more. And even to this day, I might make 20 to 30% more reselling than I did 6 years ago, right? I mean, if you take in inflation and whatever. But obviously the YouTube revenue's gone up and stuff like that. But it was a very easy decision. And we made the decision at the exact same time to homeschool our kids. Because we're like, if we're going to do this, let's just all be here. Let's all do this. I can be here. I can help teach them. She can help teach them. And we can do things a little different and see what happens. And we just literally within weeks of doing it, it was like, this is the right decision for us. Not for everybody, for us.
Your kids aren't like weird though, right? Like homeschool weird?
They're not homeschool weird.
Yeah.
Well, Reagan went to school for a while, so she's not homeschool weird at all. Turner has a little bit of homeschool weird in him, which endears him to me because,
my mom won't let me watch that.
I don't want to to get into boring education stuff. Dave would yell at me, but this whole idea of taking 30 kids that are the exact same age and putting them in a room and teaching them, that's something that's pretty new to human history within the last couple hundred, 150 years.
Yeah.
Where in the past they would have multiple levels of kids or being tutored or whatever, but you'd have like 15-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 7-year-olds.
According to what you're...
Yeah, and that was because you'd learn from your peers. And so if you put a bunch of kids together in a room, you're going to kind of learn from the most forceful peer in the group, and sometimes that's not a good thing.
The loudest wheel gets the...
You got it. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, man. And so Turner hasn't ever had that experience. But we of course, put him in different things to make him, baseball and different stuff. But it does make him, but he's incredibly polite. He's incredibly nice. And it's like, everybody loves him when they're around him because of that, and it's like there's a trade-off. Maybe they're a little bit homeschool weird.
Yeah. I could tell when I would in college. It's like, oh, you went to homeschool, didn't you? You already know.
No doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt, and we're aware of that because I was a teacher, so
That's
we kind
funny.
of get it.
Yeah. So up to this point, you finally made a decision to quit your job.
Yeah.
Ramping up the reselling.
Yeah.
Where does the content creation? Have you started your second channel yet?
That's a great
2021.
question. So 2021, how long has that channel been going on? Man, you're asking me tough questions. So no, I think late 2021 we started that. Actually, right when we made
Flipper
the shift.
channel?
So I got enough money from the Inaman sales. I decided that I would, because I was stagnant. It was a camera that was still in that eBay cave, and I'm like, this isn't gonna last for long. How long can you watch somebody just standing there talking, right? And of course, you saw Lonnie's success and different creators doing different things. And I'm like, I got to get a different scene in here. And I'm thinking like a teacher. Because if you stand up there and talk to kids for 45 minutes, they're done. They're not listening to you stand there and talk for 45 minutes. And so I would divide my class up into like 4 segments, maybe 10 minutes apart. And everything was different. The scenery, not the scenery, but where I stood or what we were doing, or they're interacting with this or they're not. And I'd change it up. And I think, well, we can bring that to YouTube. And I started to bring segments to my show and film in different locations. We'd film in the eBay cave. We'd film out there in the new shed. And the new shed, I had no money to pay for.
Yeah. So at this point, the shed is coming through. 2021.
Yep.
You decided I need a shed.
I decided I need a shed. And
Just for storage?
No, I wanted it for YouTube.
For YouTube.
Yeah, I could have stored it in some crappy shed, but I wanted it for YouTube because, I had the money to do it because the Inaman sales. And she's like, you're going to spend how much on this shed? I'm like, listen, we're selling like 10 Inaman a day. I'm like, we're making like $180 a day on these things. I'm like, this thing will be paid off in 4 months or whatever, 5 months. And so we just invested that money into that, and sure enough, it did. And it ramped up. It gave them a different look. They got to watch the process of the new shed.
So the folksy comes into play.
Folksiness comes into play. It really
What do you think?
folksiness.
What do you think about that? Like these labels that people have given you.
The people. You mean Carrie and
No,
Dave?
just the overall like aura.
know.
The folksiness.
I grew up in Southern California. I grew up near Disneyland.
Which it's crazy how, because I'm sitting here talking to you, and you don't seem like a folksy.
Well, I'll tell you, I wasn't. Well, I mean, I don't know. I was out in the sticks for California in a little place called Yucaipa, but we went to Disneyland often. My parents grew up in Orange County. They grew up in Fullerton and whatever, and so they had Disneyland in like the 50s, and 60s and whatever. And so they would take us, and I just love the idea of somebody like Walt Disney who created a world that he liked.
George Lucas, Walt Disney.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to create the world that I like, and I love reselling. And so, the initial idea was the eBay cave, and then we're going to create this place where I can work every day.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had the other shed. We're adding to it. I got my tree right there, and I'm like in heaven in my backyard.
So this is the world that Kevin wants to live in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If
And
it's
then
folksy, it's folksy.
it's
but
just what you like. It's your deal.
I don't want to have to leave the house every day. I don't want to wake up at 6 o'clock, 5:45, and go get in my car and drive for 40 minutes to get to school.
No, that sounds terrible.
And then just can't wait to get home to resell.
That sounds terrible.
And so, beautiful, let me tell you. So, and I'm like, I'm going to do this. I didn't want a storage unit somewhere. I didn't want anywhere. I wanted to just be right there. I want to be with my kids. I wanted them to participate, but you know how it is with kids. You know, you don't push any.
A little bit, but not too much.
If you push, they're not going to want to do it. And so it was exciting because my kids watched YouTube. They watch FGTV and they watch all these different stuff, and they're like, "You're on YouTube and you're whatever."
And I'm on YouTube.
They wanted to be. They wanted to be a part of it. I'm like, this is cool, and so they kind of get into it a little bit. And you know, I've wondered over time if they didn't want to. You know, every once in a while I was like, I don't want to film a video today. So I'm like, okay, I don't care. You know,
he's a kid, you know, let him be a
kid.
Exactly.
But most days it's like, you want to film a video? Yep, let's go. Because they like it. And I'm like, that's cool. And I got a lot of criticism. Oh, you're putting your kids on, I'm not making my kids do anything. And Bubba, of course, wasn't on the show very much. And it's because he
doesn't want to be on.
He didn't care. It's not like he didn't want to, but he didn't want to. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, you know, and we don't have to. And he still comes on. And everybody like, oh, you never treat, you know, like, I love Bubba. He's my boy, you know.
He's your oldest. I mean, it's different, you know what I mean?
He was in high school when we started this stuff, and it was just different. So I just created a world that I wanted to live in, and my family wanted to live in, and where I could be happy and just calm and peaceful. And if it's folksy, it's folksy.
I like it. What did your kids say when you got that plaque?
Let me tell you, Turner, I hope you're not watching this, Turner. I'm considering, because you can buy another plaque.
Really? Yeah. Oh, they give you another,
they give you an option, and like you can buy, like, I don't know, how many more. And I'm considering, Turner was so excited about it that he could not wait to open. He's like, as soon as we got home from where we're at, he's like, you gotta open it. I'm like, I want to put it on a video.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll open it here, and then you can open it later on the show. I'm like, Turner. And we did. That's exactly what we did. So, and he's so excited about it that I think I'm going to, and I can't get him without getting Reagan one. In reality, I should probably, you know, get my wife one too, but she don't care. She'd rather,
you know, have the kids. Well, they loved it.
They were just ecstatic about it.
Because they helped.
Oh my God!
You know what I mean? They're much as part of it than everything else.
Sometimes I think, and I never say this to them because once you say it to them as a parent, they won't want to do it. But I'm like, man, you know, they joke about me being old, but I'm not that old. But I'm like, I don't know, 20 years from now, I mean, is this thing going to still be? I'm like, man, because they're actually just being a part of it.
They're growing up.
They know picking a little bit. They're pretty good. Turner's gone picking with me in Arizona a couple of times, and he's gone picking with me a few places. He went to the Highway 21 sale with me, and I walk right past him, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, right here is a Game Boy Color sitting right there, and
snap.
I missed it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so they're pretty good. And Reagan's always been pretty good at it, too.
So do you explain, like, growing now, do you explain to them, like, this is what Daddy does? He buys stuff at a low cost and sells it for like, do they understand that concept?
I don't think so. So I don't think now, early on when we did the Homeschool Hustler store, which we stopped doing because it's, you know, two different stores and getting on and whatever, it's kind of a pain in the butt. I think what happened, you just immerse them in it and they kind of get it more than anything. And people joke like the whole dollar to save, dollar to spend, dollar donate is actually real. So there's those books. If you look in my shed right there, I got these 2 leather-bound books, and it's a ledger for years of what they do. Now Turner doesn't do the sales anymore. He gets paid $1 for his joke, right? But we keep track of it. And I literally hand them $1. I think at the end of the week we give them whatever it is, 3 videos or $3, whatever. But we'll put it in there, and I put it in a savings account for them, and they go to the bank, and then we donate, and I'll say, all right, this is where this is going to them. Sometimes they get to choose, and it is surprisingly, as a homeschooler, right? It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And Reagan's saved up so much money because she's done some other things. Like when she's 16, she's buying her own car.
Yeah.
I got no doubt about it. So we'll see.
Where did that principle come from? Is it something that your parents instilled in you?
You know,
because it's all about, like, I mean, how many adults need to know that make money? You spend $1, you save $1, and you donate $1
Well,
because
not many people donate.
Well,
33%. I don't donate 33%.
Well, you reap what you sow. You know what I mean?
doubt,
That's going to come out somewhere else. So
Well, I guess part of it was, I mean, kids don't understand $1 quite like anybody else. My parents did not make me save, do whatever, but my parents did not pay for anything. Well, I don't say they pay for anything, but like my first car that I bought, it was a 1979 Honda Accord, just gray, garbage-looking color. It was a stick shift and whatever, and I paid $950 for it. They didn't pay a dime for it. They didn't pay. My parents moved to Oregon when we had won a state championship in California. I was 16
in baseball.
And they were moving because my dad had much the same feeling about his job that I did. It was time you had to do something psychologically, and he got a job up in Oregon. And so they moved, and they let me stay in Southern California my junior and senior year. I stayed in Southern. We won another state championship my junior year, and that, of course, got me to college. But they didn't pay for anything. My mom would send me $25 a week to live in Southern California.
In 1970.
No,
what
70.
Was the year?
Good Lord, it was 1995.
1995. You said 70 something.
That was the Honda Accord.
Okay.
How old do you think you listen to?
No, I got my wires mixed up.
1994.
1994.
But I had to pay for my insurance. I paid for my food. I lived with 2 different families. 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 3 days.
Really?
4 days a week. Yeah, with friends.
Just friends and family?
They wouldn't even take me the whole week. They're like,
yeah, that's crazy. So were you just like living out of your car, basically?
I worked, yeah, basically. I had a rod in the back of my car with clothes hanging up in the back of my car. And just because I didn't want a closet here and a closet here, I just had my clothes in the car. I'd take in what I'd wear. And I went to school in the morning, and I didn't have to, California school district, I mean, it's a joke. School in California was a joke. But so I got out my senior year, and I didn't have to go to school for 7 classes or whatever. I had taken extra classes. So I'd go to school in the morning, and at 11:35 I got out, and I drove down to the next town over, and I worked in an old folks home, and I'd work from 12 to 2, and then I'd get in the car and go back to baseball practice. And after baseball practice, I'd go back to work, and I'd work from like 6 till 10. I'd go to bed and I'd do it again.
Gosh.
Did it for 2 years. And so I was used to paying for everything for myself. And so my kids, I'm like, we'll buy you Christmas gifts, we'll spoil you or whatever, but if hey, if you can make money, you can make money. You can pay for your own stuff, and that's what they've done. So I've been pretty.
So Bubba's getting to that point to where he's going. What is he in college
Bubba's
now?
graduated. So he
graduated college. That's right.
He went to early college. He graduated at 20 with virtually no college debt whatsoever.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It's amazing for me because you know how much I paid for his college. I paid for his early college. I paid for his first 2 years. Then we didn't pay a dime after that. He paid for it all.
That's amazing.
That's
awesome.
I mean, hey, that's what you got to do these days. You come out of school with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
It's just a scam. I was lucky enough to not pay for my school as well, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. But so things are rolling.
Yeah, it starts to roll.
Second channel's going. The money's coming in. Some people call you moneybags, Kevin Commonwealth
First of
Picker.
all, I'm very appreciative of what's happened to us, but don't listen to Dave and Carrie. It's not quite the way they seem. So,
but you got to think of like where you came from.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because what would 1994 Kevin Brown think of 2003 Kevin Brown?
That is a great question.
Working like
2023 Kevin Brown.
Exactly.
I don't know, and I hate to give people pie in the sky and say, hey, this is what you should do, because I wouldn't, and this is the reality, and it kind of irks me a little bit, because you get lumped into these, well, I'm not a real reseller, or you're only making this much, or whatever. I'm doing what I've done for the last 22 years at this point, reselling. I'm not doing anything different. And I don't want to do anything different. I don't think I ever want to become that guy that's got to make $100,000 90-day total to survive.
Well, like why?
I basically traded teaching for content creation. I didn't trade, my reselling is the same as it's always been. And it's because I love to do it. Now, obviously, we like to bump the reselling number up because it's.
But it's only to be able to do that, you need to hire people. I mean, it's a lot.
Well, the content creation, and you work really hard. So you work 40 hours a week or you work 50 hours?
I work a lot.
I mean, just on your job.
On my job,
yeah.
I work probably like 50 to 60 hours a week.
Wow. Okay. That's it. Because a lot of people do, work 40 or whatever. And there's a lot of people who retire and do this. There's a lot of people who are getting some kind of benefit and do this. And so there's all kinds of different scenarios. But
my job is not hard.
Okay.
Because,
you're there 50 to 60 hours.
Well, I'm working. It's not like mentally draining or something like that. Like my first job was making biscuits at a convenience store and had to be there at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So
that's the other thing I forgot. So Saturdays and Sundays I was there at 5 a.m.
So me looking back on it, like I'm working 50 to 60 hours and I'm sitting at a desk looking at a computer.
Right. It's different.
What am I to complain about?
Yeah, exactly.
I used to wake up at 5 a.m, all groggy-eyed. I had to be there at 5 a.m. To make biscuits at a gas station and then make fried chicken for lunch.
Right.
Well, I have nothing to complain about. What am I complaining about?
Right.
And I get paid well. I love my job. I love the people that I work for and everyone. I bring my dog with me every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, see, there's a world you don't, because I've talked to you before. I'm like, what's your plan and whatever. And you've never really, complained about your job or anything like that. I mean, I feel like, man, if I could bring my dog, I guess I do. But man.
It's my office is 5 minutes to where I work, where I stay. It used to be further, but they bought a building literally like five minutes from my house.
And so, but you've changed it. Can I turn it over on you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Quick. So you've changed the way you resell to make it accommodate your busier schedule. Plus, you're making content. So what this.
Well, the content that I like to make is this conversation.
That's what you do well.
Conversation, and I would like to make more content of picking and doing other things, but the time.
Now, how'd you grow so big on TikTok? Because this isn't TikTok content.
No, this isn't. It's just easy. It's just I quit. I really just started making TikTok videos because I'm not. It's not as fun and creative for me as.
Where I first saw you, I think, was Instagram or TikTok. I can't remember.
I think it was on YouTube.
Was it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like when for some reason, I remember you commenting on one of my old videos, probably back then, and I think I commented back like, "Oh, do you resell as well?" or something like that, but like way back in the day.
Way back, yeah.
Yeah, but
I always admired your logos. I'm like, man, that's this guy.
That's school. That's school. Me learning how to do any of that stuff, and I'm naturally artistically inclined. So I went to school for art.
You actually made my Garage Sale Nation logo. Y'all check out Garage Sale Nation.
So going to school, like I had a gift for art. Like I can draw, I can paint, and then I went into the digital art stuff. And if you go to like in college, I got to be on there's a big art museum in Nashville. It's called the Friss. They have like different exhibits or whatever. So for the first time, each college and around the area picked one person out of each college to be like a student advisory committee. So I got to be on that and then advise the museum of what to bring in. So I can talk painting and art with like all the time.
That's interesting to me because like I have zero artistic ability. I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't play a musical instrument. I took piano lessons when I was a kid. It was awful. I cried at my first recital. It was so bad. But I tried. I played the saxophone I was terrible at it. And so for me, and you see this in my videos, what I enjoy is like, maybe it's not art to some people, but I enjoy the juxtaposition of music with an idea. And I can't do music and I can't do paintings or pictures or whatever, but it was the whole thing, the intro, I had a long intro and I quoted, you might remember, it goes way back when we're talk about history and whatever. This intro is like 45 seconds long. And my wife's like, what are you doing. I'm like, I love it. This is why I'm
This
doing
is
it.
what
I
you
want
like
people
it.
to get the passion. And then the outros with a scene or an animal or something. And I still do it. And all these YouTubers downstairs are like, dude, you got to stop doing that, dude. It's killing your attention. I'm like, I realize this.
So,
I don't care.
Isn't that weird?
It's my art.
How, so, and I'm in the same boat. And I was talking to Paul about this because, you know, when I was on his podcast, the content that I like to make, like, I don't care if it does well.
Right.
It's just,
It's
for
an
me,
expression.
it's it's an artistic, creative expression of what I like to do.
It's
And
nice
if
when it does well, though.
Exactly. So if it does well, because you can only fake the funk for so long.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
It's true. Do you remember? So crazily, I was obviously inspired by a lot of people. Pete Craigslist Hunter with the characters that he had in his show. You know, whether it was an animal or his employees or his partner or you know whatever it was,
Yeah.
he had characters.
Yes.
And so I wanted to bring that to the picking videos. So you know, Honest Tim and. You know, Play It Again Rick, and I'd have these characters in there. Now I got these idiots, you know, Death Pile Picker, and all these people, you know, Uncle Steve Picker, and Dave and Carrie. And so I wanted to bring that to it because I was so inspired by it. But watching Crazy Lamp Lady's intro, she used to have it. I don't think she does it anymore. It's like she talks about it. It's her superpower. She had like a 40-second intro. I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the world because I grew up in the 80s, you know, and some of these intros to these shows in the 80s sitcoms
Epic.
were like a minute and a half long.
Yeah.
I mean, the Roseanne one, they'd play that saxophone and they'd have every character and whatever. Nobody does those anymore because it kills your attention.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you know, if I'm the only person who does it, maybe it attracts that audience.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm doing it because it's just, I just love it. And I love like the wrestling. You know, and I brought that into my reselling as well. I'm like, I don't care. You know, people don't have to like everything I like, but I need to like what I like.
Exactly.
And I think that's a huge key. And reselling, and I see you doing that more and more with, you know, cutting time out. We've talked about this just personally, you know, cutting these things out of your life so that you can do these things that you like.
Yeah.
And I see you doing that. You like this kind of atmosphere, so therefore you're going to like whatnot more.
Exactly.
Than typing on a thing into listing an item.
Yeah, and then it's just for me, time-wise, it's just easier for me to sell items on Whatnot. And if you can get a supplier, then you can easily accumulate a large amount of something and sell
Go
it.
check out, you know.
Yeah, check us out on Whatnot, Nashville Flippers. But yeah. So Kevin, now you have 3 YouTube channels.
I have 3 YouTube channels, yeah.
What? That's a lot.
Well, you know, Garage Sale Nation is like a catch-all for me, and I try to do different things. I try to do Commonwealth Classics and because I watched some of my old videos, and I'm like, man, this drags on a little bit, but there's some crazy good finds, and I'm like, I wish I could re-edit those and re-put those out, and so we kind of did that for a while and took like 3 videos and cut them down and put them into one, and they did pretty well for a while, but it's so time-consuming, and it's like, okay, and then, but we do put our shorts on there, our shorts, and I'm not a very good shorts creator, but, you know, I'm not like Carrie and those guys, but I'm like, you know, we'll do it. I like to tell stories, and it's hard to tell a story in 30 seconds.
It's hard, but now that, you know, they're pushing to more longer form content.
I actually enjoy doing some TikToks now because they allow me to do over a
Longer.
minute, and you can tell a story in a minute and a half. You know, it's hard to tell in 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure where Garage Sale Nation's going, but I know that channel, I've done reviews, and some other people have too. Flippy McFlip Evan did one for me of these highway sales. I love garage sales, and I love highway sales. It's, you know, they're not always the best finds, but there's so many people, and I love talking to people at these sales. And so that Facebook group has grown a lot, and so I don't know how we'll kind of put those two together, but I like having that third channel. I do some more specific stuff. I did a video with rod picking and punching specifically on grading VHS, right? Which would not fly on my Flipper channel.
Okay, so you brought up
here we go.
we brought up VHS. So
I don't have my VHS shirt on.
you don't have your VHS shirt. So me and Slim Flippers, we had a pretty heated debate about VHS.
Oh boy. Okay.
You know, I think it's a market that is going to tank. That the only people that are buying it is They're buying it to make
old
money.
Nerds like me.
No, I think they're just buying it for investment to make money, and that's what is increasing the price. There's no real value there unless you're just a fan of something.
But there's real value in Pokemon cards, right? There's value in that
That's
card.
what I'm saying. That's where I'm getting to.
Okay.
Okay. That's what I'm getting to.
Sorry, we're going to get in a fight right here.
That's where I'm getting to. But the difference or the same thing is the nostalgia factor in the VHS, right? Same thing with Pokemon cards.
Right.
People grow up, there's a nostalgia
Yeah, no
factor,
doubt.
trading cards or whatever. But I think the VHS is the new Beanie Babies, man.
Okay.
Like, convince me.
All right. Well,
Sell me.
okay. So if you make an argument for Pokemon cards, right? Okay. So they're still producing Pokemon cards, right?
Well, correct. But there's certain Pokemon cards, just like VHS tapes, that are one of ones, rarer than others,
Right.
or what have you, or what will you.
And-
But the condition, of course, just like VHS grading things, increases or lowers the value. But I don't think that there is enough people collecting VHS
You mean that are
tapes.
still alive?
No, no, that are collecting VHS tapes.
Okay.
That the market is going to increase or stabilize or whatever have you.
Okay, so here's my argument for you. So there are people out there that collect because I'm one of them, right?
Okay, so why are you keeping them, or are you holding them to maybe
No,
resell in the future?
well, I mean, I have a few that I would resell because they don't have that personal connection to me, right? And so I have a handful of those. Like the Willow one I sold for $1,750, ungraded. Now that was at the height of the VHS market. So I don't disagree with you that there's going to be a lull in the market. There already is a lull in the market. It's already gone down from its height to now. And the reason
But people
why,
are saying, I think I think what people are thinking is that VHS is the next, like they're going to get rich off of like grading sealed VHS tapes.
So I don't think so. So it'll be a niche market forever, but it'll always be a market. So here's the way I think about it. So the Pokemon cards they're creating today, they're purposely creating with rarity.
Correct.
Okay. So when VHS was being created, because it's not being created anymore, when it was being created, nobody had the idea of rarity. And so what people don't get, and trust me, I get hundreds of messages a week. Oh, look what I found. I'm like, dude, it's not worth anything. And I get 99 out of 100, it's not worth anything. I mean, it just isn't. And what people don't realize is the same thing with baseball cards, football cards, or whatever, is you want the rookie card and the rarest of the rare. Back then, there was no, one of whatever. You didn't see that back when I was a kid,
exactly.
right? And so you can create rarity today, and they purposely create rarity in many, many different ways. But back then, there was none of that. So the rarity came with, all right, this came out, how old are you, Ray?
37 years old.
Okay, you don't remember this then. So, well, yeah, maybe you do. So they would first run the movie in the movie theater, okay, and then they would put it out to rental stores.
I remember going to rental
Then
stores.
it would come out to the stores and sell at retail. And
because they were expensive, right?
oh, they were ridiculous.
VHS were like $70
I remember going
in the beginning.
to Vaughn's on Yucaipa Boulevard and renting the VCR to watch the VHS that we also rented, right?
Porky's?
I remember, yeah, not with my mom, no way. That was Apple Dumpling Gang, I think. So, and I remember a few years later when we got a VCR, which was amazing, we would go to the local rental that was not Blockbuster, not Hollywood. It was some guy in a rental shop, and we would rent the WWF WrestleMania 2. Right? I mean, we'd rent that stuff and like grudge matches and whatever. We just loved it. And so that stuff was not mass produced for sale because it was so expensive. It was produced for rental.
The rental stores.
It was for
specific.
home rental. And so if you can find that stuff sealed, you might be one of 10 people in the world that has it. And so I would pay for some of those classic ones that I used to watch, you know, the Hulk Hogan and Mr. T,
yeah.
whatever, that to me is
WrestleMania
just
2.
as valuable as finding a vintage G.I. Joe in a package. And so there will be a market. Now, what there's not going to be a market for is that stuff that came out to, even E.T., you didn't see that early E.T. stuff come. They mass produced it and sold it in the store because it was such a huge movie,
Yeah.
and so you don't see those kind of things. But and people think ET's, and there's, you know, the first run stuff's worth money and whatever. But like Top Gun, for instance, you find that first edition Top Gun that nobody else has, then you want that thing. They're hard to find, and so I think there is going to be but it's not what people. You know, they criticize me for all that. It's not the Disney Black Diamond stuff,
Yeah.
although there are a couple of Disney Black Diamond stuff that came out on these special edition stuff and movie club stuff that nobody has. And I sold some of those for hundreds. But it's not what you find at garage sales. You just almost never find it. And the stuff that I find that I like, it might not be worth a ton, but occasionally you come across a gem. So I think there will always be a graded VHS, a sealed VHS market, just like people like old records because the artwork that's on it. Cassette tapes are harder. I don't think that it's going to be. Let's put it this way: if you're trying to make money, you're better putting money in a Roth IRA than you are buying a VHS and waiting 10 years.
Yeah.
And
because that's what people are saying.
No,
but I understand your argument with the rarity, because the only way that you're going to find those rare video store rental,
it's hard to find,
is someone's grandma used to have a rental store. They're getting rid of their stuff, and it happens to have.
That's exactly right. It's not the only way, but it's darn near the only way. And I've been hunting them now for 2 years, and outside of the one massive find that I had, I've only had a couple that I've sold for over $100. A couple, and I hunt for them, and it's hard. You know, Rod comes up with from picking and punching, and it's, you know, and there's so much, and what makes it more difficult is when you're on eBay and you're looking at this stuff, you look at one and you look at another, and you see this one for $12 and this one for $200, and this one is exactly the same as this one, right? And then you look at a third one and it looks the same, but it's not, and it's actually worth $200. So even the people that are listing them don't know what they're doing half the time. But I've seen
maybe
people
certain
buy
stickers or stamps or something on the seals.
I've seen people list something that looks like something else and it gets sold for $20 and it's the real deal, where this one's worth nothing. And I've seen people list the garbage stuff for hundreds and it's worth nothing, and it goes back and forth. There are literally people, I know you don't believe this here, there are people on eBay making a living with buying things on eBay and selling them back on eBay.
Oh, I believe it.
On VHS and sealed cassettes and stuff like that. Now, I'm not that kind of expert. But I think in general, I tend to agree with you that they're not Beanie Babies. They're not Beanie Babies. That I will say.
Do you think Funko Pops are the next Beanie Babies?
Well, Beanie Babies didn't have the rarity factor like we produced this many of this, did they? I don't think they did. They might have started to at the end.
Yeah,
right?
I think they just printed. It's like printing money.
I would say that I think Funko Pop did try to limit certain things and vault them and do stuff like that. So I don't think it's quite the same, but I would say that Funko Pops are much more like Beanie Babies than VHS.
The VHS tapes. Well, there you have it, guys. All right, so Kevin, we're getting down to the nitty gritty.
You're gonna have to cut this into 3 videos.
No, we'll put it all. We'll put it all in there. So, thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, man,
I appreciate you.
I just want to say something nice about Ray, y'all. I went to Nashville. He didn't know I was going to say this. And I'm like, hey, you want to go out and do whatever. And I changed my plan 4 times. And then my wife went to dinner and left me in the car. And he came and picked me up and he took me out to my first Goodwill bins experience, which we both hated.
Yeah.
And then we went to the regular Goodwill next.
And then I got a nasty email from Goodwill saying to take the video down.
Really?
Yeah.
From the bins?
From the bins.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
that part's not in it. I had to cut it
to you.
I had to cut it out.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So it's just like the thrift store footage that we did. I wish we had more time.
Yeah.
Next time, like I said,
You
we'll
gotta
go
come
to a
up to my
time.
house, man. You can sit underneath my tree.
That's far, man.
It ain't that far. Come on, I'm coming down to Nashville again. You can.
Yeah, but
take
there's
me to
stuff
the Johnny
there.
Cash
There's stuff
Museum.
there. There's a speakeasy in the Johnny Cash
You
Museum.
told me that.
Yeah.
I love
So-
me some Johnny Cash. My favorite.
There's a restaurant. I'm telling you, there's a restaurant down below in the Johnny Cash Museum.
Yeah, I know. You told me.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the name of that restaurant? I can't remember. But okay, so Kevin, I always like to leave the podcast with this.
Okay.
Tell me some goals that Kevin Brown has. Because now I feel like, do you feel like you're, like, where are you right now, reselling content creation wise? Because you got a lot going on, but like, what is the next step? Because here's something that I really like about Kevin. Kevin knows that he doesn't know everything. So he literally, it's like, okay, who's doing this the best? And he'll get in contact with them, and it's like, show me how to do it, or you do it for me.
I'm trying to get a Barbie expert on. I want to learn more because I'm not the best picker. There's so many things that I don't know that people probably think I know, and that I don't. And I don't know. For me, I have goals personally, and for my family. I gave up a pension, right? I gave up a retirement. It's not the most amazing retirement, but I was 9 years away from a full, state retirement. And
so you're 21 years in, and they still haven't given you.
No, I'll have a tiny little. I think it's like $312
But what were
a month when I'm 65.
You had like 30 years?
I had
for the full
30 years, yeah. And so I want to make sure that me and my wife are taken care of, when it's retirement age. So financially, and that kind of goal is one thing. As far as reselling goes, I want to continue to do what I'm doing on eBay because I absolutely love it. It's my favorite thing that I do. Going to garage sales, flipping it on eBay is my favorite thing to do. Listing stuff underneath my tree and all that. But I do want to expand. Maybe. I do want to expand a little bit, and I've dabbled in whatnot, and I want to do it. I don't want to do it like one a week. I don't want to do it. I'm not a live performer like that. I like it, but I want to make them special. I just don't want to have a show and make money. I want to have
You're an
people
attraction.
Involved. And
Ric Flair only comes to the territory once a month.
Well, let me tell you, that's part of what the whole American Pickers getting in a car and going somewhere has always intrigued me, getting in a van and whatever. So you'll see some things coming up where I can not just go to these highway sales, but make it an event and bring people in, other pickers, other creators, other just normal resellers out there, because there's thousands of you out there. And get you to participate in what we're doing. And my wife doesn't.
Do you have another channel for that, like Kevin on the Road?
No, it'll be part of the picker channel. The picking part of it will be. I don't know that there'll be a live necessarily. It might be on whatnot, but we've got some surprises coming up. You'll see it rolled out here at the end of
So you've been thinking.
Oh, I've been planning.
You've been planning.
Not just thinking, but there's big things coming, and it may work and it may not work, but I don't really care because it's going to be fun either way.
Exactly.
We're going to do it.
That's right. So, that's right.
Maybe we'll roll into Nashville.
Let's do it, baby.
Get Dustin on board.
Yeah.
We'll go.
Yeah.
All right.
You're going to love Dustin when you meet him in person.
I can't wait to meet him, man.
Yeah. You're going to love. Well, Kevin,
brother.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Guys, make sure to sub to Kevin, Commonwealth Picker on YouTube, if you haven't already for some stupid reason. So, yeah. That's it.
Good time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. All right.
That was good stuff.
That was good, right?
That was really good, actually.
See? You got to pee?
Yep. I had to pee for 20 minutes.